everyone, I'm here with a tarot tag. This is the Tarot Collector tag. It was started by Moon Baby, so I'm going to link his original video below. Also, I found out about it because Simon from the Hermits Cave did it as well, so I'm going to link his video below too. If you are wanting to join into this tag, use the hashtag tarot, I think it's called Tarot Collector Challenge. I'll put it below, so use that one. I would love to see what other people's answers to this are as well. But yeah, the original one, it was Moon Baby, so check his out. And thank you to Moon Baby for making this particular tag. It's a lot of fun, and I haven't done a tag in a while, and I thought it would just be like a fun thing to do. So this is the Tarot Collector challenge. So first of all, the first question is your most expensive deck. Now, there was a few candidates for this, but I think the most expensive deck I bought is I never know how to pronounce it. It's the Goetia or Goetia. I don't know. But it is the first deck I backed on Kickstarter. It is a gorgeous deck. I know I've been raving about this for a while, but it's so beautiful. I mean, look at the box. It's just gorgeous. The cards are gorgeous. There was so much thought and care and love put into this deck. I do think it was a worthwhile investment. For me anyway, the book is beautiful and contains really great information. It came with a beautiful little art print there on linen. And of course the cards themselves are beautiful. They're silver edged. They've got this beautiful silver and black, which shows up very rainbowy in this lighting, but it's so beautiful. So beautiful. So that is probably my most expensive deck. You know, I'm not rolling in dough, so when I do buy a deck, I feel like it has to be kind of worth my money, especially if it's like a really expensive deck. But I really love this deck. It is beautiful. It reads well. It's very different. So for me, it was definitely worth the investment. The next question we have here is your least expensive deck. This was hard because I don't really keep track of, exactly how much I'm spending on decks. Probably should. But, I don't, once I've bought it, it's like out of my mind. I don't buy a lot of used decks. And this one I believe was used. I bought Tarot of a Moon Garden. Now, any of these kind of decks where it's in like, the US Games decks or even the Hay House decks, the US Games ones that are in these little tuck boxes and things are really inexpensive decks. So really there could have been a few of these decks that I pulled out. But this one actually I did buy used. I don't know if it's in print anymore. But I bought it used like from a shop that was selling some secondhand decks. And I used to have this in the 90s. So it was kind of a bit of a nostalgia buy for me. And so, I don't have anything against, these decks. If it's a nice deck and it's in these little tuck boxes, that's fine. If you're a beginner, I don't necessarily recommend these decks just because they don't come with good books. The little white book, like, just throw it out. But if you really want one of these, you love the artwork, I would say also buy a really good tarot instructional book so that you learn how to read the cards. But, this is probably one of my most inexpensive decks, but it has a lot of nostalgia for me. So, nothing wrong with that. Things don't have to be expensive to be good. The next question is deck other collectors would want. That I don't really know. Maybe the Goetia, but I pulled out for this one. I have the first edition of the Spirit Keepers Tarot by Annabelle Wen. This is I think she's on her third edition now and maybe working on a fourth. Or is she working on the third? I can't remember. But there's been a couple of editions since this. But I have the original one. I have number 119 out of 1,000. Love this deck. It was, I've seen this deck in other places going for like a lot of money, but I have no intention of selling this deck because I love it. Nice gold gilding, beautiful backs. I love the black and white imagery on here. And I love that this was something, she drew it all herself. She wrote the book herself. It's really cool because I've followed her for a while on, on YouTube and her blog and stuff. I've taken a couple of courses from her. So it was really cool to see her come out with a deck that she made all herself and follow the whole process. And it was just really cool, really cool. So I was very happy and proud to get this particular deck, but it won't be going anywhere anytime soon, that's for sure. The next question is your strangest deck. Probably the most unique deck that I own would be the Classic Rock Tarot cards. It's one of my favorite decks. This is, it's a bit of a novelty deck. It doesn't come with a box, like a book or anything. It's just in a little tuck box like this, which is sadly becoming kind of a bit damaged. But, I mean, I couldn't resist a deck that had, like, Axel in it, so I had to get it. I don't agree with all of the associations. I think a lot of them, especially in the minors, are quite arbitrary. But some of the major arcana, like Axel's the Fool, yeah, we get it. We get it. But then you have stuff like this, like the Ace of Swords. You have Randy Rhodes. Well, I don't really know why they picked that. But it's just kind of cool to have a deck with, like, the Ramones in it. What else do we got here? We got Lita Ford. It's one of the queens. You've just got all sorts of, you've got Eric Clapton in here. We've got Robert Plant. Like Robert Plant as the Seven of Swords. I don't have any connection there. Steve Harris from Iron Maiden is in here as well. So it's just like a really cool, fun deck to have. It's very, very different and not something that that I see a lot of. So, I had to pick that up, and it's an independent deck as well. So it cost a little bit, but for me it was worth it because I get a lot of enjoyment out of this particular deck. Deck people are least likely to have. That would be the Winnipeg Tarot, my hometown. So this tarot deck, this is from 2010. The WAG, the Winnipeg Art Gallery, which is the main art institution in the city, it has like a big event every year as part of, there's like this thing called Nuit Blanche, which is an all-night sort of party where there's all sorts of cultural institutions and art galleries and things that are open. And the WAG, for theirs, they have like a party, and at the one in 2010, there were 2 local artists that made a tarot deck about Winnipeg, and you could get a reading from them. It was just like a lot of fun. So this is, a deck that I guess unless you live in Winnipeg and you got one on that night, you wouldn't have it. So it's pretty cool. I mean, it is very local, and I don't read with it or anything. It's just more of a thing to have. They have their little white book. That's what the backs look like. Let's see, for the Fool, they have Garbage Hill, which is literally a hill that was a garbage dump, and now it's grown over with grass. So that's what Garbage Hill is. See, what else do they have here? For the Empress, they have the Conservatory at the Assiniboine Park. Just like a lot of local landmarks. The Emperor is the legislator, the government building. So, just local landmarks, things that people here would know about. The Hermit is the ruins of the St. Norbert, the ruins at St. Norbert. This was a monastery that burnt down, and there's ruins there. So, things like that. So that's like a kind of fun, cool little collector's item. Like I said, I don't read with it, but it was just like a fun collector's thing to have. Whoops, as I knock things around. All right. Okay. Deck you've had the longest. This one was hard because I have been collecting decks since the 90s, but I ended up, like giving some away and selling some. And, I kind of back in the past had a partner that was like not very supportive of these kind of things. And so I ended up like a lot of the decks I don't have anymore. But this one I've had for a long time, and it's probably the one I've had for the longest, and that is the Golden Tarot. I know I bought this sometime in the 2000s. So it is based on medieval artwork. It's sort of a collage of various different Renaissance and medieval paintings, particularly Northern Renaissance paintings. I'm a big medieval art fan. I studied medieval art, medieval literature, and medieval history in university. So this is my jam. So I use this deck. This deck was used for a really long time. I really love this deck. You can see it's a bit scuffed and things, but that's probably the deck that I've had the longest out of all of my decks currently. So that's the Golden Tarot. My newest deck, the deck that I bought most recently, that would be the Nightmare Before Christmas Tarot. Now, I have to say I was disappointed in this. You know, the box is great. I love Abigail Larson's artwork. I mean, I love the, is it the Darkwood Tarot by her? But, you know, I feel like this was rushed. I feel like they could have done so much more. There's a nice little book with it. So I'm probably going to end up, you know, trading this or selling it or something. I've really opened it once and not used it. That's the backs there. Very cool. I feel like, I think my disappointment was in the minors, especially. You know, there's some of the characters are repeated, and I don't think they had to do that with what they had to work with. I also, you know, don't like that. I'm not a big fan of pip decks, but I think if it was consistently pips, I could deal with that. But what we have here is we have some that are pips and some that are not, and the things that are not don't always match what the meaning of the card is. So to me, it's kind of confusing. Like the Four of Presents, which is supposed to be the Four of Coins. I don't really know what that has to do with it. So I was a little disappointed in this deck, but I think other people might really like it. But that's my most recent purchase with my decks. The deck that made you want to collect. The deck that made me want to collect more decks would be the Mythic Tarot, which I left upstairs, which I'm going to go get. All right, so I went upstairs and I got the Mythic Tarot, which is in this beautiful box that my partner made for me. So lovely. He makes these tarot boxes to size. So yes, so it's a nice little box there. The Mythic Tarot was one of the original decks that I had back in the 90s. And then I think I lost it in the move or something, and I ended up getting a copy. This is not the black back, it's a blue back, which I think is from the 2000s, but whatever, I don't care. But this one really helped me to learn how to read the cards. It was one of my first decks, and it really helped me see that tarot could be interpreted in so many ways, in that you can look at it through a lens of different things. Like this is through the lens of the Greek, you know, the Greek mythic cycle, you know, Greek mythology. So it really helped me to understand the cards. And it also helped me see like, hey, there's like this world of wonderful artwork that's out there, you know, that's really cool. And so it really helped me to get into collecting decks. All right. So the last question is, what is your favorite deck? Now, this is really hard. I have a few favorites. The Mythic deck being one of them, absolutely. But as I talked about that one last question, one of my other favorites I'm going to talk about is the Shadowscapes Tarot. This is the first deck I think I bought after I left that abusive relationship. And it really kind of helped me get back into tarot reading. It helped me so much. And I love this deck. And I love the pictures. They're so beautiful. I love the watercolor. I love that every time I look at these, I see something different. I love its fae vibe. I think it's just so beautiful. You can just see how much love and care has been put into this deck. I love this deck. It is beautiful. So that is one of my favorite decks. Definitely one of the decks that will remain on my top list of decks for sure. So we would love to see what all of you guys' favorite decks are. I'd love to see some of the other tags. I know I'm going to go look for some more. Thank you to Hermits Cave and also Moonbaby for Hermits Cave for sharing the tag, and Moonbaby for creating it. That's awesome. For those of you that are interested, you know, I have tarot readings on my Etsy shop if you're interested. And also on my Patreon, I have tarot scopes and astrology every week if you're interested in that. And thank you to all of my patrons for your love and support, especially to Nathan, Nicole, and Marie. Big shout out to you guys. And to everybody who likes and comments and subscribes. You guys are amazing. And as always, peace and love.